welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Good day, good afternoon. Again, on this fourth day, this is Dr. Gentre Garmon with the book, Thrifty Thoughts for the Day. On this fourth day, we want to talk about wisdom. Wisdom. What is wisdom? Let's begin with a little true story that demonstrates what wisdom is not. Several years ago, when I was a Boy Scout, a group of us were on a camping trip for 1 week. Beautiful day. And the scoutmaster stated to us that those who could swim would be free to swim in the lake. And the non-swimmers were to stay back and have fun there. But there was one rambunctious young man. And he decided that he would show his abilities, his great prowess in the water. He had already been informed that this was a small pool of water. So he dove in head first. And he came out of the water, thanks be to God, with a bruised head, a lump on his head. He did not break his neck. That's what wisdom is not. What is wisdom? Wisdom is the ability to judge soundly and deal sagaciously with facts, certain information relating to life and conduct, discernment, discretion. And what I want to do for a few moments today is to use an example from the book of Daniel. The first chapter. I want you to join in with us. You don't need to get the book. If you haven't, that's fine. But we're looking at what wisdom entails using information from the book of Daniel, the first chapter. And what we find is that God had allowed Nebuchadnezzar to overthrow the authority in Jerusalem, Judah, and he seized the whole nation, took it over. And of course, God knew that. And so he wanted to have in his employ certain persons who would be able to give credence further to his administration, who would aid him and as he met with dignitaries and what have you. And so let's look at what he was calling for from his aides, his chief assistant, who was over the eunuchs. He wanted young men who had no blemish. In other words, their faces were clear and no marks. Wanted them to be well-favored, handsome, skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science and so forth, and then be able to learn the language of the Chaldeans. Now, let me go over those requirements or attributes that the king was looking for. And you who are listening, please join in. He was looking for young men who had no blemish. They were handsome, well-favored, skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge. If there's someone out there, let me hear from you right now. Which of those attributes should be mentioned first? Is there anyone who can share that with me at this moment? Again, he's looking for young men who are handsome, no blemishes, and who had wisdom and who were able to deal with knowledge and capable of learning a foreign language. I'll wait 3 seconds. Is there anyone out there who would join in right now? Tell me what's the main attribute that we should be looking at? All right. Wisdom. Now, quite naturally, from a natural point of view, this king is going to, mention about the young men being handsome because they're going to be human adornments. Cassandra Wood. So yes, since we're talking about it, yes, all right, that's fine. Glad to hear from you, Cassandra Wood. We're talking about wisdom. Now, let's be clear. We're looking at a system, a governmental system. And sometimes you come under their operation and under their requirements. And so the three men who were chosen, Daniel, Hananiah, and Mishael, four of them actually, Azariah, they couldn't help. They couldn't really do anything about these attributes. It just happened that this is what was called for. And this happens sometimes in your employment. You have nothing to do with what someone is asking for, but we understand that God gave them favor. So he's going to allow the king to look at their outward appearances, while there was the understanding through God that it would not be the outward appearances that would stand out. It would be what they knew, what was in their heads, their minds, and their spirits. Let's look at this. We want you to examine what was to be required of Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They were to eat the king's meat and to drink the king's wine. Why? Because the king felt that after about several years, 3 years of nourishing, they would then meet all of the requirements. They had the skill, they had the knowledge, but he wanted to fatten them up, make sure that they looked healthy. And by the way, nothing wrong with looking healthy on the job. Get your exercise. Can wisdom, Henrietta Clark asks, can wisdom be acquired? Yes. Wisdom is acquired, but it comes from God. You have to ask them. James says, if you ask God for wisdom, it will be granted to you liberally and will not upbraid you. So wisdom can be had from any individual at his level. Yes, wisdom can be acquired. See, God does not have robots. That might be surprise some. No, he does not have robots. Now, all of us have different talents, different abilities, but we all can, if we desire, we should desire this wisdom. Let's go further, and we're just going to use these characters to set the table for our discussion this afternoon. He felt that, the king felt, they needed 3 years to really become familiar with the diet and all of the nutritional standards that were among the king's people. Now, Daniel, the leader, had who was, by the way, favored by the king's chief staff member. God will give you favor even in your captivity. He'll give you favor. Now, just imagine if they're in captivity and they have favor from God, you can have favor on that job that's a little difficult, challenging. You can still have favor from God. Don't give up. What's the difference? Kimberly Pickle asks, what's the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Well, wisdom covers knowledge. Wisdom would give you, see, you can go on the computers now and get a lot of information. People bypass the old-fashioned dictionaries and catalogs, various books with knowledge. But wisdom, and we're talking about knowledge, that those things that would inform us. For example, I am benefiting from those who years ago had knowledge as to how to compose, develop a computer using people's minds, knowledge. However, with these smartphones, computers, all kinds of information can come over them or through them. So now you need wisdom to deal with that knowledge, because some of these things can be extracted and misused. We need knowledge, but we need wisdom to deal with it. Now, in this case, Daniel said to the prince of the eunuchs, now, I hear what you're saying, but I have some options. He didn't say this, and I'm throwing it out to you. Now, the king has said that he would want them to be well-nourished, eating the food, the meat, and drinking the wine. And there are options. And I would like to quickly, is there anyone out there who believes that there are options? What can Daniel say to the king through this prince of the eunuchs? Is there anyone there who can deal with this? This is a roundtable discussion. He cannot drink wine and eat this meat. This is in opposition to his level of faith and what he knows about God. But he's in their employ. He really can't go anywhere. What can he do? What options does he have? All right. Option one would be to tell the prince of the eunuch, who would then give the message to the king, I'm not going to do it. That's option one. I'm not going to do it. But remember now, the king is not going to be happy with this Prince of Unity. He said he's not going to be happy. All right. But because Daniel and the others have wisdom, this is what Daniel said. Okay. Why not allow us to eat something that we are familiar with, and to also, have something to drink? They said now, or he said, we will eat pulse, peas, beans, lentils, etc., and any plant yielding the same, and water. Now I want you to hear this. This is still a modern day diet. If you have beans, peas, and lentils, and you eat those for 3 days, you'll survive and you'll thrive. Well, I'm jumping the gun. After 3 days, they were examined, and the 4 children were looking better than all of the other folk who had eaten the king's meat and drunk his wine. Now, this has nothing to do with, those dietary situations. We're talking about options. He didn't say that the king and his staff and other folk, should not eat those things or drink that. Daniel was concerned about himself and the other 3 young men. And that's a lesson for us. Let's look at the round table discussion. Is there anybody out there listening? Some of you have jobs where there are celebrations, and you have nothing really to do with the celebration. But it would be nice if you would come aboard and join in with the others. Come aboard. You have nothing, you didn't host it, you didn't set it up, you didn't make arrangements, and this is a retirement party. One of your fellow co-workers. You have nothing to do with the details, but it would be so, delightful if you would come, and it's going to be at an establishment, where anyone can come, the banquet hall or something of that nature. What do you do? Look at Daniel and the 4 Hebrew boys. Join in with them. Join in with them. And give yourself or selves options. Today, my friends, Alvin Partridge asked, how can wisdom help bring us closer to God? Well, a wonderful question. Let me finish this thought. You are going to go to the banquet, and you see the others around the tables. They're getting some of the king's meat and some of his drink. You are going to politely state that you would like some water or some soda and the rest of the meal. You don't make fuss about what they're doing. Because first of all, you're not the host. When you learn to deal properly with wisdom, you will have opportunities to share that wisdom with others. That's what God would have you do. You'll be drawn closer to him every step you make. You'll have God in mind. That's what wisdom will do. You're not going to be overthrown by certain obstacles, certain situations that you have no previous responsibilities for. To be drawn closer to God involves having wisdom because you're going to seek him first. Wisdom will have you to seek God first. And you're not going to be afraid of life's changes. I mentioned the other day, vicissitudes of life. You're not going to be afraid of those things. We've got a few more minutes. I want to deal with this wisdom. Wisdom on the job. You're dealing with co-workers, sometimes who do not understand that the king's language really has all that's required. You don't have to add anything that would defile it with certain words that are of a profane nature. You stand in there and always give dignity to God. Never let a soul hear you say a word that would bring God's witness under situations that can be judged by man. Can any wisdom you can share the viewers who have doubts about God's existence? All right. Yeah. Are you listening? Whoever is out there, you know this. You didn't bring the flowers to bloom. You didn't bring yourself here. Anybody with any wisdom would know that there's someone over the flowers and animals and man. Now, you might not have what it takes to give a theological exegesis, but you can certainly establish that God exists because you are here. You are here. God exists. People around you. Where do your thoughts come from? Where do your thoughts come from? From a vacuum? How do we have a computer? How are you seeing me? You say, oh, man did that. No, man has someone over him. Man actually has the best computer around in his brain. He has nothing to do with it. The computer in the brain is what makes the computer that we're working with now. God himself is the greatest scientist ever. Don't negate the evidence that God exists simply because of what some people might have to share regarding this situation. You have information, you have detail. You know that you didn't bring yourself here. All right, we have a few more moments. We're going to see what we can do with these few moments. Anybody else there? Can you hear me? Now, wisdom. Wisdom would tell us that our days have a number. All we have to do is look around. Some of our friends that we've known for years are no longer here. A number of our parents are no longer here. Siblings are no longer here. But God's still here. Thank you, Tamara, I think, Laurel. Thank you for the witness. And we're doing what we can to bring these blessings from God. You're here, I'm here, and that's evidence. Don't leave yourself out. You're the greatest witness that God exists. You're the witness. He speaks through you. He lives through you. One might say, well, let's not limit God, but the other thing is don't limit yourself. That's the other part of the equation. People don't realize that there are people who are able, after a certain period of time, to see that God exists, because God will magnify himself through a human vessel made of clay. He's not God, she's not God, but I'll guarantee you, he has enough evidence to prove that he exists. Now, the other point is that we move forward is the poor witness that thinks that God is limited to 120 years of man's existence, and that man is finished. I don't believe that. I don't believe that I'm finished after I'm 120 years old. I'm like some others. Moses didn't determine how long he would live, but I've talked to the master, and I said 120 years won't be too long. That'll give me enough time to bear witness of who you are. Now, some of you don't talk like that, but I do. I still have a work to do. I've got family members that I'm still working with. I'm still magnifying the greatness of God. Listen, does God exist? I'll tell you what. My nephew called me the other day, and he lost his uncle, who was my brother a few months ago. He called me and he said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing fine." Then I told him what I'm still doing. I told him I'm still, because he doesn't see me too often doing any work of that kind. I'm still mowing my own lawn. I'm still getting rid of the snow. He said, "You don't hurt?" I said, "No, every now and then." I said, "But the body needs to be lubricated and oil. God knows about this body." We still have folk in Italy and Southern California. They're working in the field, 95, 100 years old, because they have sought God. They don't limit themselves. That's God speaking through them. He spoke through Daniel, so you don't have to embarrass yourself. God is sovereign enough to make himself known to all creatures in many ways. Abyssinia. You're absolutely right. Not just humans. Absolutely right. Some of the evidence is proven by science itself, aside from the testimonies of its believers in the Bible itself. Now, you're right. That is absolutely so, because if man was on an island, all right, you've got it. If man was on an island, just like John was when he was deposed, when he was out there alone, he still was able, I'm sure, looking around the trees, birds, bees, if he didn't know before that time, God exists. When you see fish, when you see the waters, when you see rainfall, no other human being needs to be around. You don't have to look at yourself. You're absolutely right. He's sovereign. He doesn't need man to bring about his existence. I'm just giving you one side of it. And certainly I have to agree with Miss Abyssila. Have to. He's sovereign, meaning he's all alone in his kingship, in his overall authority. Sovereign king. No one like him. Oh, thank you for that. That's a beautiful response. Science ought not be dismissed. A wise person would examine the science and see where God is over it and through it. There's some science we ought to be aware of, but it's only a way of God expressing who he is. Oh, I'm thankful for this witness. Anybody else out there? Anybody else out there? Well, we thank you. And remember now that this is a storytelling hour. We are here to help get that story, the stories that come through the festival of stories, through, in this case, Reader's Magnet. We're just excited to be a part of that witness. People need to hear the stories and share them. Again, tomorrow, God willing, we will see, and we want to talk about contemplation. Contemplation. wisdom. Mr. Moffat, good to have you. Glad you were with us today. I trust that you found it somewhat interesting and beneficial. The witness of wisdom. Everybody can have it. Just ask for it. He'll grant it to you. And Mr. Montgomery, Bob Montgomery, glad to have you with us. Look to see you or hear from you. Speak with you tomorrow. Please come back, because I believe this discussion about contemplation will extend today's discussion. Need more contemplation. And what I've gathered from a couple of you or several of you is that you're aware of the need for contemplation. Oh, what a great time we've had today. And join us again, Festival Storytellers. And we want you to be a part of that. We want you to be a part. Great to have you with us. Wisdom. You ought to search for it. Wisdom is so precious. You ought to dig for it every day. Thank you, Mr. Smith. I thank you so much. You say God looks upon you with a smile. I believe so. I believe so. Anybody want? Listen, I mowed the grass. I haven't been washed out in years, and because I work with God, once I get going, now that might seem but I'm boasting about God. I haven't been washed out because I look in the air and we talk. As I need to complete this work today, it doesn't matter how much grass is involved. I'm serious. In the last several years, have not been washed out. Now it rain the next day or so, but not while I'm going. Oh, I'm not. God has, I believe, has humor too, and He's working with me because I don't want to come back the next day with the grass all wet and what have you. Oh, what a great God we have. We want to thank Him for His wisdom. His wisdom. His wisdom. Thank you again for this day. A day of wisdom. A day of wisdom from God coming through you. Someone has shared that wisdom with another. Thank you so much. We're happy to be a part of this day. This is the day the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Yes, we will. We're glad to be in the number. In the number. We're glad to be in the number. Thank you for this being a part of this observation. Again, we will be back tomorrow, God willing, at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. with a discussion on contemplation. Contemplation.